Ay, 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 ay. What a friend I have in Philip, huh? It's so good to be Uncle Johannes. Oh, it feels so good to be Uncle Johannes. And I got the privilege to have my son here with you all. Adam, can you stand up? Adam Amritzer. I sent a boy here. He's a man now. That's what you guys do in Louisiana, huh? You man people up. Come on. It's awesome to meet with Adam, and what an astonishing young man he has become here. And Philip and Destiny, thank you for everything you do for our son and for being such awesome friends to us, huh? A little beauty is in the room too. Come on, baby. Why don't you stand up? Maria, my wife. This is going to be a good Sunday. Can you feel it? Hey. Huh? So, for you that have never met me, I was born in South Austria. So the accent you hear is the Arnold Schwarzenegger accent. Some of you love that. Some of you hate that. So I'm glad we're not out in California today. That joke won't go that well everywhere. But me and Maria are first generation Christians, and when we are going to speak out of this book now, more than enough, I just want to say right off from the beginning that this is not some kind of a gross prosperity teaching that you have probably heard in America from time to time with fantasy preachers making you stand in faith for 5 cars that you don't need, and toilet seats made out of gold, and I don't know what nonsense. No, this comes out from a place where we had nothing and we needed to help our people to come into dignity, to make a living, to meet their bills, to land a job. So more than enough is available out here. You can buy it today. I'm going to teach out of that book today, and I'm eager to do it. I feel like I want to roll up my sleeves. Can I do that? Just go to it. Can I? Yeah, all right. So I always say that I come from South Austria, from a mining community, a working class community. My granddaddy was a red communist, not because he believed in the beliefs, but because he wanted to sleep in Sunday morning. He didn't want to go to Catholic Mass. So, and I have the simplest background you can think of. You know, we played cards, drank beers, and picked a fight. And sometimes we mixed up the order a little bit, but it was the same drill every day, okay? And I was destined for some low-paid jobs, just what it was, to be a truck driver or a mechanic at a gas station somewhere, or build a road. And I'm not speaking against that here now. Are you hearing me? That's a decent, good job. If you take your thermos in the morning and you go drive your truck, remember, that's how I was provided for. My father did that. But I want to say today that there might be more. We might break out of the mold. We can do something that the family has not done before. I dropped out of high school. I was drunk in high school. I dropped out of high school after 2 years. I'm not proud of that, but it was not just in the stars. It was not, we couldn't see college or university in my family. But I'm standing in faith that my son will see that. So are you hearing me? We can break something and we can believe that there is more and that we can go to something else. So when you receive this teaching today, receive it from a former ghetto rat, okay? That had nothing. And God has brought me to something. I want to start out with the Joseph story here today. So let's see if we can get it up here. It's really a story about buying Egypt. And I think we have to buy Egypt in every generation. Egypt in the Bible stands for slavery, captivity, bondage. We are owned. But we can buy what owns us, isn't it? Come to the top, turn everything around. And if you don't know anything about this, maybe you grew up in a Christian family, let me just tell you this: don't take it for granted. I said to Philip in the first service, coming in here never gets old to me. Coming in, meeting a church of sober, good-looking people. Having a life. Come on, somebody. I'm so grateful for Jesus and what he has done in my life. Free slaves buying the very Egypt that once kept them in bondage. That's what this message is all about. And I want to start with the Joseph story. To many of you, the Joseph story is very familiar. I remember when I read it for the first time. It's a fascinating story about a young man. He has 11 brothers. They are 12 brothers. And Joseph is the favorite. Hated by his brothers because he's the spoiled brat. And he has this big dreams. How many of you remember? He dreams that his brothers and his mother and father are going to serve him and bow before him. And after a while, he's thrown down into a well, an empty well, and then sold as a slave to a caravan. And he ends up in Egypt, 17 years old, sold on the slave market, on an auction. I want you to see he stands naked on the auction in Egypt, a foreigner not knowing the language, totally broke, has nothing. And then he makes this class journey that is just spectacular. It is amazing. First he starts to work for a soldier, and this soldier promotes him, and he goes to the top, but then it ends up in catastrophe because the soldier's wife accuses him for having tried to rape him, and he ends up in prison, innocent as a sexual offender. And with my type of background, I know something about how people are treated in prison that are a sexual offender. But this guy somehow makes it even in prison, and after a while runs the whole show there because he has a dream on the inside about something else, something bigger. Do you believe God can do something bigger? Let me just speak to you. If you're sitting here in your 5th marriage, you've gone through everything possible. You've been fighting alcoholism and drug addiction. Listen to me, there's hope for you. If God could do it for me and Maria, he can do it for you. If God could break me out of South Austria, letting me stand here teach in my 3rd language on a Sunday morning in Louisiana, you understand? That's a miracle. It's a miracle. God can do whatever he wants if you believe in him. So the story goes that he makes it from prison straight into the royal court. There's a baker in prison and a bartender in prison, and he interprets their dreams, and they tell about him, or the one that survives, the bartender, tells about him to Pharaoh, the biggest guy in the kingdom. And he ends up in front of Pharaoh because Pharaoh had dreams, and he interprets those dreams about abundance of years that will come and a famine that will come to the world. And he's being put in. And he runs the show now in Egypt. Can you see the foreigner, ex-slave boy, standing naked at the auction, is now the second man in Egypt. And he feeds the whole world when he is middle-aged because he has a dream. I mean, there is the scripture I just want to read. So Joseph bought all the land in Egypt for Pharaoh. Do you get this? I feel a little bit like Joseph at times. I feel every time that, God has brought me to an awesome place and I can come home and give my people bread. I can come into old South Austria and meet with my relatives and I tell them about my life and I can feed them bread. And God can do that for you. God can lift you. God can do something extraordinary in your life. But Joseph had some qualities in his life. I just want to list them for you. Number 1. He had supernatural vision to read future trends. Would you agree with me? Number 2, he had a very clear and thorough plan. We always ask people that are poor, because we work with people, you see, that have been in prison for 14 years and impossible will get hired by anyone in the community. Are you here? So what do you tell someone like that? Or someone that is called Muhammad or Ali? Okay, and there is a lot of prejudice against Muslims in Europe. How will he get a job? Or someone that has been fired because of alcoholism again and again. How will he find? So they say, well, I got nothing. We tell them, do you have a savings account? And they say, savings account? And they laugh. I can't save anything. I'm barely getting by. And we said, well, the first thing, even if we're going, if we're going to continue this counseling, is that you open up a savings account. Because a savings account tells me that you believe in your future, that you believe in a change, that you believe in tomorrow, that you believe that there will be more than enough. Sometimes our poor people go and open up a savings account in faith because they believe they are going to save something. God will give them more than enough. Are you hearing me? If that's all you do after this service, you go out and open up a savings account, that's a good thing. But he had a very clear and thorough plan. You see, I have been with people, they have visions, especially when they are high on pot. They believe they can save the whole world. My relatives thought they could save the whole world for a few minutes. But that won't take you to where you need to go. It takes a plan. All right? Number 3, organized, clear structures. Joseph had that. He structured storehouses and 1/5 of the harvest to go into them so that they were ready for the famine to come. 4, he had timing, knowing when to strike a deal, when to close a deal. And number 5, a vision bigger than his own family. To be a blessing is more than just being blessed. Isn't it? Are you hearing me? If you are blessed, you can do a vacation. But if you are a blessing, you can buy someone else a vacation. Isn't it? If you are blessed, you can get your son through university. But when you are a blessing, you can get someone else's son through university. Isn't it? We must believe there is more for us than just barely getting by. We must believe there is more than just living from paycheck to paycheck. Can I speak to you? This is an ex-ghetto rat speaking to you today. All right? We had nothing, absolutely nothing, me and Maria. No one helped us with an initial capital or helped us to start. If I can tell you stories. I will not go into that now. But the Jesus model. Luke's Gospel 19 verse 30 tells us, now put this money to work. Isn't that amazing? You know, the story about the 10 minas. They handed out 5, 2, 1 to different people according to their capacity. And then Jesus said in this parable that the master said, now put this money to work. So you see, money is supposed to work for you and you are not supposed to work for money. Isn't it? To slave from paycheck to paycheck, that's what we have been trained to do. Living, barely getting by. But money can be put to work for us. And now some of you say, but I don't have any money. So if you could just stop talking about that because I don't. But I'm going to talk about what you have. You are breathing, my friend. Now you don't know the depths I have, but you're still breathing. And someone dragged you to church. If they bribed you here or forced you here, I don't know. But you are here and you're listening to this cocky European, all right? That is coming after you. So you are here and you are breathing. Isn't it? All right. Some of you, okay. All right. I don't know where it's going with this. Doesn't matter. I know where I'm going with this. So we're going to read from 2 Kings chapter 4 together. It's about a prophet called Elisha. I don't know if you are familiar with the bigger prophets, but it was Elijah. And he had this servant called Elisha, and Elisha stood in faith for double the miracles and double the life that Elijah had. And Elisha had a lot of disciples, so people that he trained up to be prophets. And one of them that had served with him dies and leaves his wife in debt. And the story goes, 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 1. The wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha, your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves. Elisha replied to her, well, how can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house? Your servant has nothing there at all, she said, except a little oil. Elisha said, well, go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. And then go inside, shut the door behind you and your sons, pour oil into all the jars. As each is filled, put it to one side. Well, she left him and afterward shut the door behind her and her sons, and they brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. And when all the jars were full, she said to her son, bring me another one. But he replied, there is not a jar left. And then the oil stopped flowing. She went and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your son can live on what is left. Are you with me? Okay, let's go through the story a little bit. Number one, God has given each and every one of us talents. So even if you sit here and you say, I'm poor. In Europe, we have this expression, poor as a church rat. I don't know if you can say that here. Poor as a church rat. But you got nothing. And every time when we bring this up to our people, we talk with them. We say, so what do you have in your house? They always respond, nothing. Got nothing. Nothing. I'm in debt. Then we bring out the story. We say, she thought she had nothing either. And she were in debt. And her slaves were going, her sons were going into slavery. And then still she had something, but she didn't consider that something worth to even be mentioned. Well, if you're really going to investigate what I have this little flask of oil with a little bit of oil left. That's all I have. Well, he said, take that and go borrow jars. And we all know that if this woman is regretting something sitting in heaven today, it is, why didn't I borrow 10,000 jars? Because when she started pouring out of that little flask, it never stopped. It just, isn't it? Just went on flowing out of that jar. And I've never done those sound effects before. So, I don't know, anyhow. So, but it never stopped. And when there was no jar left, she got frustrated because she realized, if I would have just had a little more faith in what the man of God was pointing out for me, I would have become a billionaire. If I would have borrowed 10,000 jars, why was I so stupid? So the jars, we say, is a picture. Look at this. Number 2 is a word from the Holy Spirit. Number 3 is empty jars. Empty jars is a picture of your faith, but it's also a picture, we should say, of how you analyze the market for your product. Isn't it? It's like a market investigation. What kind of demand is there out there for what I have? And you say, now what are you talking about? I'm talking about that gift of yours that you have overlooked, that you have neglected. You know, when I grew up, I didn't believe I would go anywhere with my life, but I had this little gift. You are hearing me in my third language today, but in my mother tongue, I can be pretty funny and pretty entertaining. And I always gathered a group at the party. Can you see me, 14 years old, having everyone laugh? I was the circus monkey at the party. I always made them laugh. I didn't do well with the girls because of my good looks, but I could tell them a story. And if I could tell them a story, maybe I could get lucky, So, are you hearing me? I have this gift. Maybe some of you don't like what I'm saying now, but the gift was there long before I gave my life to Christ. And I remember I was taken into a band, pity. They took pity on me, wanted me to play guitar and bass guitar, and I wasn't a good player. But they knew that if Johannes speaks in between the songs, he will lit the place on fire. All right? So I did that long before I preached the gospel. I talked in the smoky little cafe that we were playing in or whatever it was, and I made the people feel good. I made them feel like they were at the best concert ever, even though there were just 30 people in the room. They had never ever been to a party with such talented musicians as they were right now. I could talk to those people. I could get, what do you say in America? Yeah, I could sweet talk them. Isn't that what you say? Huh? So the gift. And I remember when they asked me in literature history class, just before I fell out of high school or quit high school, they asked me to read a story. an ancient Greek poetry. Can you read that aloud to us? I thought it was a joke. I got mad. I was about to kick my chair over and get out of the class and shout and scream like I did. But there was a guy next to me and another girl that said, "You can do it. Come on, show them you can do it." And I stood up and against all odds started to reading this poetry. And in the middle of me reading, something happened with my voice. It started its own life. Went up and down and I whispered and I played all the characters in the poetry and I forgot about them and something started to burn in my chest. And after a while, all the girls were teared up, like so touched. One guy just started cussing to himself, like, "Who is this guy? What is this?" Because everyone knew I was the impossible kid, the ghetto rat from the wrong family. And here I was reading poetry like if they were sitting in a theater. And something was alive and something was kicking and something was touching them. And when I then dropped out of high school, Sophie, a girlfriend there in school, she said, "You are wasting so much talent." I didn't understand what she meant. Had no idea because I couldn't see that. I was full of anxiety and, just lived a horrible life at that time. But I really want to say this to you guys, that there is something in your life as I'm speaking. Something that is your little flask of oil. Hardly could I, if anyone would have told me when I was 18 or 19 that you will make a living of your speaking ability, I wouldn't have believed them. But I've spoken all over the world and the jars are still standing empty. Cities and stadiums, are you here? And churches and towns and places. And I'm writing books and I need some help editing them by the well-educated lady in the room, but still, are you here? Are you hearing me? All right. So you need to understand your God-given talent. You need a word from the Holy Spirit and you need empty jars. You have already a miraculous source inside of you. Can I say that to all of you here? Let me take you some examples now out of the book here, More Than Enough. We have this kid from Michigan that came to Stockholm to go to a Bible school. I like to tell the story because he's American. And he had nothing. He was one of those hipster kids, with funny tattoos on his body that didn't mean anything. I'm old school. A tattoo should mean something. Why do you have a pineapple on your arm? I don't know. I think pineapples are cool, kind of cool. Like, all right, okay. I mean, you could have a cool story about a police throwing a pineapple at you or something, but it's not a cool story. I like the pineapple. How many of you understand that there's a weird confusion between generations a little bit here? The guy loves his backpacking lifestyle. He's a hipster. And, beards and hair is his life, Have you been in these metrosexual cultures in the big cities? I'm talking to Louisianans here, but you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to say that you don't know what I'm talking about, but we still talking about another world, okay? Than the guys that just skin the squirrel for breakfast. You know what I'm saying? It's a little different. They don't really care about what oil to have in their beard. But there's a whole world in the big cities where they care so much about that. And Ben had scissors. He had a pair of scissors and a shaving knife that he had inherited from his granddaddy in his backpack. And a scissors from his mama that was a hairdresser. And his granddaddy had taught him how to shave with that knife. And he just came up with this idea. It was just in the beginning of the trends of barbershops. He came up with the idea, let me create an American barbershop the way it looked in the 30s, right downtown Stockholm. So he borrowed money from some friends and he started going to auctions with his Norwegian girlfriend that he later married, okay? They're a bunch of kids now. They are happy. And he put up this barbershop. And it was ridiculous how well he made. He, with passion, he was combing and trimming beards for ridiculous amounts of money. To these hipsters that just, The beard is a garden, one told me when I was visiting. Beard is not just a beard. You don't just have facial hair. It's a garden. Okay. Anyhow, before you know it, Ben had 3 barbershops. 3 barbershops in town and 15 employed. And it just kept on booming. He paid his debts. He became one of our biggest donors in church. So even if I didn't understand the hipster culture, I was happy for what was coming in. He was helping us with taking care of the ex-alcoholics, building rehabs, and he helped us with missions. He was just there. And now he has a vision to start these barbershops everywhere. What are you talking about? Well, he didn't have an education. His granddaddy had taught him how to shave a face. Hot towel shaves, and I don't know what it's called. And his mama had taught him to cut hairs in the kitchen. And he had a dream to do something for God and to use his talent. And he created the most cool atmosphere. I'm telling you, the coolest hipster cultures of Stockholm meets in Ben Law's barbershop. Everyone comes to him. So what are you talking about? I'm talking about a poor kid from Michigan with not a cent coming into Europe, believing he had a God-given talent and a word from the Holy Spirit, and the whole city was empty jars, and the miracles started flowing. Why can't you be that kid? Why can't you be that someone? What do you have on the inside? It's time for us to speak. Are you here? You don't need to live a barely getting by life. You have more inside of you. I believe, I speak to the SOS people, I believe in you. There's nothing we can't do. And the poor people, are you hearing me, getting out of prison, coming in from refugee camps, are starting businesses and going somewhere. If I tell you about Hannah was asked to decorate and make the interior design of one of our churches that we planted. And we just saw that this was more than just a little cool. It was awesome. She'd never tried it before, but she went all in, all out. I don't know how to say it in English. She just went for it. And it became the coolest looking church ever. And everyone said, Hannah, you have a talent. Yeah, I always thought it was fun, But it was more than that. She had that special touch. That little extra. And we challenged her. And today Hannah has her own company with tons of employed people. And she's styling apartments and villas all over Stockholm, making tons. When they flip a house, they bring her in because she brings the value up on the house by styling it with 15 grand at times. Just from putting in her little extra touch. Are you hearing me? I'm not talking about painting, putting wallpapers. I'm talking about her bringing in some furniture, some flowers, some decorations, and it goes up 15 grand. I want you to understand that someone has a gift. If you would have asked her, she would have said, I got nothing. But her nothing was an interior designing gift. Her nothing was a talent that she opened up, and now it's just pouring into empty jars. And she is an amazing girl, just making it bigger and bigger and bigger. Let me talk to you about one Deo, poor Ethiopian. But he loved to drive cars. A little too much like the guys in Fast and Furious. You know what I'm saying? The guy could drive. I was sitting with him in the car. He could drive. Then I asked him, could you drive so smooth that I will not even feel it? He could do that too. And I just asked him, it was like a gift he had, the guy. It didn't matter what car he had. And I just said, well, so what? It's a passion. It's a passion. What do you think happened? We challenged him today. He has his own taxi company with a bunch of cars, and he's making tons. Not only for his family, but for family back home in Ethiopia, and for his church, and for missions. Why couldn't that be you? Are you hearing me? Why couldn't that be you? Don't tell me I'm from poor Louisiana. Don't tell me I got no initial capital. Don't tell me my mama was an alcoholic. Well, I can tell you my story. And then we can sob together. Or we could tell the stories and then later tell miracle stories and dance together. I believe you can make it. I believe it's possible for each and every one of you. You have a talent. God has given you something. Believe in it. Helena Grönfors, a gypsy girl from the ghettos that liked to clean. But I'm telling you, it was something extra with her cleaning. If you sat on a toilet after Helena had cleaned it in our church, it was an experience. Some of you, you don't understand what I'm talking about because you've been spoiled with Disney experience. But in Europe, we have Disney down in Paris now, but up in the north, we don't have that. But we go to a clean toilet. And it smells good. And we have almost a fantasy Disney experience. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't demand much when you come from nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's very easy to entertain us, make us happy. But when you sat in one of Helena's toilets, it smelled so good. It was so clean. For the first time you thought, I'm not going to have a disease. You thought I would be safe here. Can I be myself? Some of you, just look at your neighbor and say, remember his background. Just tell your neighbor, remember his background. Remember he wasn't born in church. Just tell your neighbor quick. Say, excuse him. Plus he is a foreigner and all that, So, are you with me? Yeah. Helena had a gift. What was it? She liked to clean. And when I told her, that's a talent, she laughed. She laughed. Really, that girl, we must say it, she didn't have a lot of confidence when we talked about her. No, very low self-esteem. Not much of a confidence. But we told her, you have a gift. You can make this so special. Today she has her own cleaning company. She's cleaning the nicest offices in town. She's making tons of money because she cleans with style. It is an experience to walk into a kitchen that Helena has cleaned. It is an experience visiting a toilet where Helena has cleaned. Are you hearing me? Hey, I'm not talking about, can you feel it? I'm not talking about you getting a private jet today. I'm not talking about some gross, strange prosperity thing. I'm talking about you getting your dignity. Not just slave away and waste your talent, but you believing you can be a gardener. Not just of beards, but of your talent. Are you here? Huh? You can do something with your life. You can go somewhere with your life. It's possible. I believe that today new innovators and entrepreneurs are going to be birthed right here at North Point. This Sunday. As you're sitting here right now, there is something inside of you coming alive. Maybe what if this? Yeah, exactly. What if, yeah, exactly. What if that little something that you think is nothing is your little flask of oil? What if that little something that has given you so much joy and so much pleasure privately would be something that would bless nations? Are you hearing me? Why couldn't God use you? We must believe it is possible. All right, let's get the worship team up here and let's stand up on our feet. I preached long enough, I think. But I want to say something about having nothing before we start to lay hands upon entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs want to be. Before we do that, I'd like to speak a little bit about this. Listen, me and Maria know everything about having nothing. Just so that you know, when you've had nothing and you have what we have today, you're very content. Me and Maria, we don't need anything more now. We need more to bless other people. We are happy on a curbside with a little sunshine in our face and a cup of coffee. Hand in hand, we are happy. Are you here? I'm happy when I have her. If we are in a sleeping bag, I'm happy. I'm just happy. I'm content. I come from nothing. God brought me somewhere. But I want to believe that I can feed the world give bread to the world, help the hungry, help the poor, give dignity to people, isn't it? Live with purpose, live with a greater vision than just your own little vacation or house or car. You're living for something greater. What do you do when you have that? You keep on dreaming. You keep on believing. And you will see then God will really turn on that miracle source. It will come out like crazy.